welcome to the SVG-TV news for Thursday, June 18th. I am Cal Okato with the details. The first online educational institute for youths in St. Vincent and the Grenadines was launched today. The initiative is by the director of STEM, Petrus Gums, who received a $40,000 grant under the government's Promotional Youth Empowerment Program, PRIME. The launching ceremony of the STEM SVG Educational Institute took place at the Methodist Church Hall under the theme Designed to Inspire Success. Gums, who received support from sponsors of his annual summer program, thanked Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez for pushing him to make his dream become a reality.
This institute, which will be named the STEM SVG Educational Institute, is almost 100% online because we have some partners who we are working with who still love the little hard copy. It's at this point 100% paperless, which is difficult to boast in this time, but I love the idea of paperless. We are training teachers to be paperless, and we are hoping that we could save some trees along the way. It has a total of 23 professional teachers behind it. Some retired, but retired is a kind of word that my former teachers say. It doesn't really mean we leave the system. It means we actually put on new tires. So we actually retire. We're retooling them. That was Mr. Godson Kane. So we're retooling them, retraining them. Some of them are fearful of the technology, but we said no problem. That is why I'm here. I will hold your hand and I will guide you through it, even if you come by your house and sit you through it.
Gums said that the aim of this online education institute is to reach students across the country and work with training organizations and other collaborative institutes to reach adults who need additional training in the areas of science and technology.
Is to reach students in the far reaches of our country and even the Grenadines. Too often we are being complained to that, oh, all the teachers are in Kingston, we can't get access to these teachers. And I have some wonderful teachers who work on the STEM program, brilliant teachers, and deliver content in the smoothest of ways. And I asked one of my teachers, have you ever taught a child from Oria? No. Have you ever taught a child from Chumuka and so forth? And most of them replied, no. This time around, we are tooling our teachers so that they can reach those students. Students who have to leave school early and cannot get the help that they need on afternoons, that is no longer an issue. We providing those teachers for you. You can meet them once in a while, but most of your work will be doing online.
He said that the STEM Educational Institute is currently going through the accreditation process, and soon they will be able to offer accredited courses.
This portal is featured like an actual classroom. You can present content. It has its own conference room, not Zoom, where teachers will feel secure, students are secure, and you will not encounter a few of the horror stories that you will hear going around with the current online and conference room sessions. Persons will be in there, technical persons will be in there, so that students and teachers have an ease in the maneuver of the system. The conference room, which we can boast a lot about, can hold over 100 persons easy if you have that capability or that capacity to work with. On my left, which is the proud addition to our program, or the institute, is the store, the online stove, where students will go and find the classes that they're interested in being part of. Once it is available, the students can sign up, pay online, and get access to the class online.
Gums is also hoping to work with persons beyond the borders of SVG as he seeks to further develop his online education institute. Acting Deputy Chief Education Officer Dixon Finley said that the Ministry of Education is happy and proud of the brilliant idea which the Director of STEM SVG came up with in this challenging time of COVID-19 pandemic.
working to reduce the number of platforms, and one that we are pushing is the Microsoft Teams, and Petrus at St. Martin's is doing a wonderful job. He and his team at St. Martin's, and I must congratulate you because you, St. Martin's, have set the pace and other schools are coming on board. What you have doing here and what you're going to learn this morning is going to change the business of education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the better. And we from the Ministry of Education, we have to embrace this kind of move. And I want to congratulate you, Mr. Gums, and your team.
Sponsors of the STEM SVG summer program, Digicel, represented by its country manager Fanta Williams, and manager of the Couriers City store, Jean Johnny Findley, endorsed the work of Gums, the STEM team, and the program.
The first time I interacted with Petrus Gums and some of the STEM team, I saw their true colors shining through. I believed in their mission. I was impressed. I bought into the idea, and today I am a proud convert of Team STEM SVG.
What Petrus Gums has done with his STEM team is made a determined decision to find a way to overcome what is extremely challenging times and deliver what is a very critical aspect of what we must do for our children, which is to continue to find a way to deliver quality education to them.
The Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, Sustainable Development and Information Technology, Camilo Gonzalez, praised the STEM director as a rare individual, especially for his great ideas in science and technology. Petrus Gums is the director of STEM SVG, which coordinates a summer program each year, which educates children on modern technology around the world. He is also one of the first recipients of the government's Prime Grant program. He used the funding to create the first online educational institute here in SVG. Speaking at today's launching ceremony, Minister Gonzalez said what Gums is doing in science and technology in SVG is something the government will never be able to do.
But a lot of people have made STEM into a fairly dry and boring subject. But not Petrus. And when I came there and I saw primary school children driving robots that they had built on a stage, and I saw other primary school and early secondary school students with apps that they had created, and I saw in subsequent years those former students coming back as instructors to teach the next year of children how to do robotics and how to program and how to learn programming languages and how to advance in mathematics and science. It showed that Petrus, on his own initiative, was creating an ecosystem of innovation and science and technology and excitement about science and technology here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Minister Gonzalez said that Gums has seized the opportunity of the COVID-19 crisis to conceptualize the STEM SVG Educational Institute, which he says is necessary at this time in SVG's development.
And he has seized the opportunity within the crisis to bring to the STEM SVG Educational Institute. And it is something that is so necessary, not only in this time, but in this environment called St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are an archipelago. We have students not only on this island of St. Vincent, scattered all around the island, but we have students in Bequia, in Canawan, in Union Island, in Mustique. We have children in Myro. And getting children to school in an archipelago, in a small island developing state, just getting them to school is a task. And the Ministry of Education knows that. Much less getting them equality of instruction at all of these institutions.
Gonzalez said that the STEM Educational Institute, which was partly funded by the PRIME program, is a testament of the program's success.
Applicant, and therefore he was an early recipient. He was the first applicant to receive the maximum amount of $40,000 from PRIME. And I have to tell you that looking at this, if nothing else comes out of PRIME, having the STEM SVG Educational Institute be partly funded by PRIME is reason enough to say that PRIME has been a success this year in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Petrus had a vision for what he needed technically, what he needed in terms of equipment. He expressed it, he explained it, he had a wonderful business plan in place, and it was one of the easiest decisions of the steering committee. I'm not a part of the steering committee. They only give me reports as to who is approved and who is not approved.
Minister of Tourism Cecil Mackey is hopeful that the industry, which has been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, will bounce back as ports of entry in the region and around the world begin to reopen. New protocols were drafted for phased reopening of borders, which Minister Mackey said is critical for safe passenger arrivals. He was in full praise of the Ministry of Health for managing COVID-19 in SVG and is confident that this will continue as more persons begin to travel again.
Importantly, the Ministry of Health and their team, they have been very nimble. In other words, when a case is identified, contact tracing is critical.
Yes.
And when we come to speak about what is going to happen when the protocols are put in place for opening back to receive international and regional flights, we would see that the need to be nimble is going to be critical, because we are going to be bringing home persons, and visitors will start coming back to our shows in numbers, and therefore we have to be in a position to respond and respond quickly in the event that we have a positive case.
Yes.
Over the last month, several cruise ships were docked at Port Kingstown, repatriating sailors. Minister Mackey said while they were not tourists, it was equally important that the Vincentians made it back home amidst these trying times.
Yeah, I think they brought just over 60, about 62 persons.
Yes.
Between the three of them.
Oh, yes.
And very, very important exercise. We have to ensure that our Vincentian brothers and sisters are welcomed to their homeland.
Yes, very important.
When persons were saying lock it down tight as a drum, let no one in, we held the position that citizen means a lot. And it had to transfer into something real and meaningful.
Yes.
And we were always ready and willing to welcome our brothers and sisters home. And we never wavered on that position.
Land is the integrating component of all livelihoods depending on farm, forest, rangeland, or water, rivers, lakes, coastal marine, and habitats. Due to varying political, social, and economic factors, the heavy use of natural resources to supply a rapidly growing global population and economy has resulted in the unintended mismanagement and degradation of lands and ecosystems. With this in mind, for SVG's focal point for the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification and Drought, Director of Forestry Fitzgerald Providence highlighted some practices that would help farmers with sustainable land management and to prevent land and soil degradation in SVG.
To have sustainable land management and to prevent land degradation or soil degradation, we can do several practices. The first, from a forestry context, is that we protect our steep slopes and our upper watershed areas by maintaining the forests. Keep the forest there, you're able to preserve the soil, and you also be able to conserve the water. In terms of the middle basin areas where we have a lot of agricultural practices, we encourage the farmers to plant along the contour. Dig the contour banks so that the soil is not eroded easily. Also, the practice of putting in contour drains, which traps the soil that may move, and also using the vetiver grass in grass banks. And the vetiver grass, while protecting the soil, it can also be used in craft and other applications that ensures that it's a sustainable conservation measures.
Providence also encouraged farmers to plant more trees along streams and riverbanks to avoid soil erosion and to help protect the marine ecosystem.
Agroforestry is where you incorporate an agriculture crop with a forest crop, for example, tree crops. You keep the trees, they provide shade, they also protect the soil and ensure that the soil is there and the nutrients are there for the crops you're growing, the agricultural crops you're growing. Also, we want to protect our stream banks, our waterways, and we need to have that buffer of vegetation between the water and where we're doing our agricultural practices or where we're doing other practices that are not associated with forest conservation. So we can protect our river banks by planting again vetiver grass banks or using wattles of glycida or other sturdy trees that we can protect that area. Also planting fruit trees along those areas can also protect our waterways from erosion. And when we protect our waterways and our soils, we protect the whole watershed and also the marine space around our islands. So it's important that we do these practices to protect our soil and to ensure that we become a land degradation neutral country.
The forestry director said land degradation can cause a forest to become a desert, which could lead to a multitude of problems, hence the need to protect land space and the forest.
But when land degrades, it can become a desert, and we know that the Sahara Desert is expanding because the land is degrading around it. When you deforest, when you remove that soil protection and the elements, the soil is exposed to all the elements, you can have land degradation and you can have desert. Deserts is where the productivity of the soil falls so low that you can have nothing growing on it. There's very little life in a desert. So the soil productivity and the capacity for the soil to hold plants is so reduced that it becomes a barren land. That's desert. When you look at soil or land degradation, you're looking at where the productivity of the land is reducing gradually.
SVG joined the rest of the world yesterday in observing Desertification and Drought Day under the theme Food, Feed, Fiber. Every year on June 17th, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification is celebrated, which is an international legally binding agreement on land issues. The repatriation of Guyanese stranded in SVG is dependent on when regional airlines Liat and Caribbean Airlines resume their passenger service in and out of SVG. So says Honorary Consul of Guyana to SVG, Nigel Russell, who said that to date, 6 Guyanese nationals have registered with the SVG consulate and have met the requirements to be repatriated home. Ambassador Russell said there have been speculations that the Guyana government was making arrangements for a special flight to repatriate stranded nationals in SVG and other neighboring countries, but this was not the case.
We're not putting on any extra flights for Guyanese. That's very clear. And number 2, you have to get your confirmed seat going back to Guyana, present that itinerary to us there, we send a copy down to Guyana, and even in St. Vincent here, the itinerary also is needed. So there is I won't say collaboration, but there is on the page, all of these countries are seeming to operate across the board with basically the same kind of principle. Guyana is not putting on any flights, any special flights. Many of those persons who came here on their own, visiting, doing business, and they're stranded here. No fault of ours or theirs. Our job is to get them back to their jobs and family as soon as possible, but following all of the known protocols by both countries.
Russell said his office has been in contact with the relevant authorities in SVG and Guyana about the repatriation of the Guyanese nationals.
But we're trying to get those who are stranded here, who've got to get back to their jobs and families. That's the first priority, to get them back. We believe from Cal and Liat, those are the very first people who will be getting seats, because they've been stranded here 3 months or whatever, and they want to get back. We have our forms that you have to fill out. St. Vincent has their forms also for you to fill out with required information. All of these are mandatory before consideration is given for anyone to return. So the big issue is getting the flights confirmed, because without that, they could do nothing. Guyana wants people to know when you come to Guyana, you'll be subjected to other protocols there, because many people want to know what happens when you get there. We have to let you know that. We don't want to feel that when you get there to Guyana and they're now imposing things, you say nobody told you. So my job is to tell you, when you get to Guyana, you present your test. They will do another test on arrival there, and based upon what the results are, it will determine what happens.
Regarding the health protocol requirements, Russell said that the SVG COVID-19 task force will be carrying out PCR tests for the stranded Guyanese at one location 48 hours prior to travel.
If it was mandatory for children under 5 to get the test, we have confirmed that yes, they have to get the test. So I want to make it very clear, because people have been asking the questions. Only yesterday we got that, as last evening we got that kind of confirmation. It is mandatory. Everyone is going back. You must get the test. So you have your kids, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, they have to do the test to secure. And to help out very much, we will have them at the consulate when the tests are supposed to be done, instead of you having to have a lot of resources being used by the government to go and find you in Layu, to go and find you in Bokoment and these places there. What we've agreed, we will centralize you, as we did in May, and they will come there, and that was very welcome by the government here, that we can centralize them in one place, and they can come and get the test done right there instead of having them to go all over the place.
Police have arrested and charged 21-year-old Oranson Garraway, an unemployed man of Layu, with possession of an unlawful firearm and ammunition. According to investigations, the accused man allegedly had in his possession one homemade firearm without a license issued under the Firearms Act. He also had in his possession one round of 12-gauge ammunition without a license issued under the same act. The incident is said to have occurred in Layu yesterday. Garraway was expected to appear before the Serious Offences Court today to answer to the charges.